so starving.
We're so starving. That's what we call it. We just wanted to have a short introduction to this record, and I had some lyrics. Basically, the only lyrics in the song are, "Oh, how it's been so long.
We're so sorry we've been gone."
We've been busy writing songs for you, and I just wanted to put that in. Whatever the first song on the record ended up being, I had that idea. Just as kind of a fun, tongue-in-cheek way to start an album.
9 in the afternoon stayed the same.
Stayed the same, yeah. Which I think's great.
It makes sense for the
song. It's the first song we wrote. And it's a good title.
Yeah, I mean, that was the main theme that night when we wrote the song. That was the line that we just kept going back to in the song. We had other lyrics written, kind of, but that was just like the line that we were like, oh, that's funny.
She's a handsome woman. I remember just walking in. We were in the studio at this time, and John was playing drums one night after everyone had left, and I was there, and I just picked up the guitar, and that guitar line's the first thing that really came to me. And then the next day, I had written the lyrics after we went home that night. I wrote all the lyrics, and then the next day we showed it to the band and finished the song that day. So that was one of the quicker, songwriting experiences on this record. Do You Know What I'm Seeing used to be called Hollow Birds, and we wrote that over the summer in my backyard, and that was a fun night.
That was a fun night.
It was one of the best songwriting sessions I think we had on the record. It was just a really fun song. That Green Gentleman.
That Green Gentleman.
Yeah, That Green
Used
Gentleman.
to be called Things Have Changed.
We wrote that all together. We wrote the lyrics together.
That was the second.
Music together.
That was the second song we wrote.
Yeah. In a similar way of 9 in the afternoon, we were all just at a rehearsal room, and we had no idea coming in. Yeah. Just kind of was one of those things. I picked up the guitar.
I think John had started doing the dan on the bass. He was like boom, and then I go over to the piano. Ryan's on the guitar, and then we're just like just kind of rocking out on just those two chords, just because it felt good to play those two chords. Spencer's on the drums, just it was just fun to play loud with those two chords, and that was the basis of that song. I have friends in holy spaces, and which doesn't really, I guess the significance behind it is that the song is about certain characters, I guess, real or fictional, in my experience that I've known, that can have certain tendencies to act certain ways and show a certain side of themselves that not people usually don't want to see.
Northern Downpour, surprise, is Northern Downpour, and for me, I remember John sending me the idea for that song, and he never thought it was very good, and I always loved it.
It's kind of a John Walker tune that we all kind of loved. We were like, oh yes.
The melody is John's, and I wrote the lyrics to it, but he wrote even the chorus melody, sugarcane part. So yeah, John wrote some really great melodies on that, and I just wanted it to be as simple as possible as far as the arrangement, because I think that the melody and the lyric are just the focal point of that song. And it's got some of my favorite lines in it, like the world's a broken bone, melt your headache, call it home. Some of the stuff that I thought actually had something important to say on. And yeah, I don't know, that's one of our most grown-up songs, I guess.
Middle of Summer is now called When the Day Met the Night.
Yes. Yeah. I like that song. I was worried about it for a while.
So was I.
I liked it when we wrote it. It was just very straightforward and kind of a lullaby, and I wanted to keep that charm in the final recording. And then, you know, when you get in the studio, sometimes things sound a little too good, and it took the charm away from the song. But then Peter, the glorious Peter Cobbin, came to the rescue, and as did Rob Mathis with some amazing orchestral arrangements, and turned that song into the longest song we've ever written, and also one of the most musical.
What is it now called?
Pas de Cheval.
That's right. Pas de Cheval is now, or used to be called Sing It For Them, tentative title. And
it means...
It's the...
it's
the
French.
gallop.
Yes. Step
the
of the horse.
Yeah.
It's a ballerina thing, and it just kind of sounds like that, the beat. And that one was just a fun song for us to play. I think we don't ever really let ourselves do a typical rock and roll song, and we just decided to do one and go for it.
It's got a solo in it.
Yeah, there's a guitar solo, and it's just a fun song. We didn't really think much about playing live when we were writing the last record, and so I think a couple of these songs, like this one, were kind of written towards, you know, having a good time
with
live with the
in
crowd.
Mind, yeah.
You know, having the crowd get going a little bit. So, but I like the melodies, and I think it's...
I like that song a lot.
The piano knows something I don't know. I'd had the music, kind of. I had that, that thing, the melody, and then Spencer just grabbed a pad of lyrics that I had on the table and made the melody up.
Spence wrote the melody for that song, that's right.
He came up with some of the lyrics on the...
Well, he was the inspiration for the kind of theme of that. He started the lyrics. I won't cut my beard and I won't change my hair.
So, whatever you think that means.
So, whatever that means.
And I just really liked the melody. And so that was one of the nights where we just did not leave until it was done, because it was so bizarre from anything we'd ever done. We felt like we only knew what it was supposed to sound like that night. Behind the sea. Well, that's just this kind of... that song is supposed to make you forget about everything real, and it is basically just all imagery, the whole song, and the sounds around it. I wanted it to just sound like the lyric did musically, so it's one of those songs where you just kind of lay down and close your eyes and you listen to it as a little story or something. And, you know, somewhere behind the sea. It's kind of an unknown. Folking around.
Folking around. Used to be called Putting Out the Lantern. That was the tentative title for a while. And actually, I think the first time that I'd started writing that song, we were at Ryan's house, actually, discussing a few other songs and discussing actually, you know, track listings and stuff for the record, because most of the songs had been written, and which is weird that, you know, it was added so late. But I still had some time, so, you know, but we were all just sitting around your living room, and I don't remember how it got started. I was just holding a guitar, and everybody was just, you know, singing something or doing their own thing, having discussions and just playing in the background and just playing chords or whatever. And then Ryan kind of came over and like sat down and he was like, "Oh, what are you playing?" I was like, "I don't know." You know, so that's how it kind of got started. And then we just had that line, "Putting out the lantern, find your own way back home." And that was the only line that we had. So I just kind of, you know, Louis Armstrong the melody through the chords, just, you know, zibby-dabby, you know, whatever it was, and ended up with that line at each stanza, you know, as like a kind of campfire tune, and that song was written in like 3 different stages, lyrically.
The thing that I like about it, and is kind of weird, is that I didn't have a lot to do with it, so when I heard it, and I heard the lyric, the first line, "Allow me to exaggerate a memory or two," because for first few times I heard it, I thought the lyrics were cheesy, and then I noticed that line, and then I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, because it's, first of all, it's called Folkin' Around, and then all the lyrics are so overly nostalgic that it's just actually a fun song, because it's really hard to do a good folk song, like one that's really moving.
No,
so
it's not supposed to be in any way profound. It's just a tune. It's a jaunty ditty. You know what I mean?
Like, it sounds like a song that an old grandpa would sing to his grandchildren before they went to sleep.
Exactly. It's just a campfire tune for the grandkids. You know what I mean? It's just a feel-good little number for the.
How's it go? Yeah. She Had the World is one that I was saying that was written and then deconstructed and then rewritten, and never was one of my favorite songs, but it was something about it that I always liked. And so when we were about to record it, I'd worked on it for a couple of nights before we had to track it, and actually came up with a melody that I liked a lot more. And this little line where Rob also traces it with the orchestra, and it actually turned out to be one of the biggest departures, I guess, musically for us on the album. So it was kind of cool. It's just there's no hidden meaning. It's just kind of
straightforward,
an unloved song,
Yeah.
in a way, but it's just pretty lighthearted, and mainly I like the melody and the orchestra behind it. From a mountain in the middle of the cabins. I still really love that song, and particularly the the orchestration that Rob put on was exactly the kind of stuff I had in my mind for that. It's kind of it's really nostalgic, and it's sort of a romantic sounding song in a way. It's very
like that
wistful.
cartoon. It's like
wistful.
It's like that cartoon with Mickey and Minnie from like the 30s or 40s, where they're walking on the beach with the umbrella in between the fountains and stuff, and he's like feeding her like chocolate cherries and crap.
Yeah, but it's like a sadder, a bit of a more.
Oh, and then they die at the end of the cartoon. That's what the song is. Yeah. So it's sad.
Nobody dies in this song, but
that would make the cartoon sad.
Yeah. Mad as Rabbits.
Title stayed the same.
Yeah. For me, I had this idea about writing a song about a character that is in the calendar business, and business was bad, and so I came up with the lyrics. The lyrics took me a long time to get the finalized version of. They were kind of pieces I'd had for a couple weeks or a month or two, and then placed them all together. It reminded me of like some kind of like old session that would happen where you just don't think about it. You just kind of pick up an instrument and play it. So
it was kind of a more or less jam session.
Yeah.
But the chords were written. It was just everybody making up their own line over the chords, and we were actually playing so loud in the room that no one could even hear what anybody else was playing until we recorded it. So I still hadn't known anybody else's part the whole time we were writing the song. I only knew the chord changes from watching Ryan and John play and moving their fingers, and I was like, okay, so they must be playing this chord or something. That's the only way I knew what we were doing. And that's kind of how everybody knew what we were doing, I think, because it was so loud. And then once it was recorded, we were just like, wow, and then we started noticing everybody else's part, and we're like, oh, good job, man. And that was, so just for some reason, it just kind of all fell together, and that was cool.
That was fun.
That was a cool writing process,
And it was also the last song we wrote for the album, and it's kind of got the biggest refrain.
It does.
And kind of a good overall feeling of the album. The last line is, we must reinvent love, and then that just kind of concludes the album.